Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegrand, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pull Tab Sports. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins complete their first sweep, and I should clarify, their first good sweep, Dan, of the season, taking all three from the Angels at home. Mike Trout by himself can't do it without Ohtani. What fun it is, Dan, to watch a baseball team that scores runs.
Remarkable. That first game when they scored 11. But then that second game when they scored 5. Like, this was really, it's not that hard. I think I saw a stat, it was probably a couple weeks ago now, but like the difference between for the Twins scoring 4 runs or 3 is just remarkable in their record, right? Like they win way more when they score 4. And sure enough, that's what they did 3 games in a row and they won all 3.
A lot of different feelings about this series. And part of it's just because you're playing a team that's not great. I mean, they're not as bad as the White Sox, but they're certainly not an upper echelon team by any stretch. So it will be interesting as the team makes its way now against some higher level competition to see if this sort of momentum shift can continue. We'll get into that a lot throughout this episode. But Dan, yesterday we were celebrating my mom's birthday. And when we have all the family together, we like to do some activity outside if we can. And I had just purchased a blitzball bat and some blitz balls because I had the wiffle balls and I had a couple other balls, but I really wanted to try these blitz balls because I haven't really got to play with them much myself. You know, when you're playing with people of all ages, right? Like, I mean, we range down from my youngest, who's 2, all the way up to my dad, who's 71. And so you're trying to, it's not like highly competitive here, right? Like nobody's cleating somebody in the leg, right? We're in somebody's backyard, for crying out loud. My dad's pitching, and looking at the way we always do, like youngest, oldest when you're doing
Smart.
teams,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
My dad, being the kind man that he is, we start in the field and he is lightly tossing the ball and just letting him swing away,
Of
right?
course.
Well, the thing is, that only works if the other team reciprocates. So it's my nephew on the mound, and he's just like slinging it, right? And it's like, okay, well, hang on. We would not have done this in the first inning if we knew this was happening.
I tell you the truth, I'm a little confused by your tactics.
I'm not. He's a 13-year-old kid. I'd be doing the same thing, Dan. No, absolutely none not whatsoever. So, Dan, how do you prevent this from happening when one team is clearly being much more all-out, need to win, and the other team is like, let's have a nice time as a family?
I think you have to sit the teenager down and say, buddy, look around. Read the room, man. You lean into that teenager and you say, grow up, buddy. Look at this. When you were 6, we did the same soft toss to you. You can do the same thing to us. It's perfectly simple, David. It's the teenager is the problem.
To be fair, he did bring it down when we were like, hey, man, you know, with the kids especially, you gotta let them swing.
It's a children's game. It's a family affair.
It was a pretty entertaining afternoon regardless. Only a couple of injuries. One person got hit in the head with a bat that was thrown after a hit. And then one person, I nailed my 2-year-old with the ball. It was
your own child, David?
My own child. And it wasn't good. He was fine. Anyway, okay, with that, Dan, you know, he spilled some milk, and I thought this is the best time to get back at him.
Kiss the cows.
I think the idea of getting hit with a ball is going to come up a little bit later here in the segments, David. We should go ahead and get into the recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan, super fun game. Hogs was there. We got the text. He was at his all-you-can-eat game. So I really want to know how many hot dogs he ate throughout the process. But Twins win this one 11-4. Lopez returns from injury. Obviously, there's some energy in the dugout because Lopez has come to return. They're rocking the City Connect jerseys, Dan. It was going to be a fun night of baseball. This whole weekend, Dan, very Minnesota sports-centric because you got the Wild in the postseason. You got the Wolves in the postseason. It's just an exciting time to be a Minnesota sports fan. even though the Minnesota Twins are struggling.
But hey, an 11-4 victory is they weren't struggling this weekend, which I think was really cool. Lopez looks all right. He's ramping back up, but he goes in 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 101 pitches, 60 strikes. Top of the first, a little rocky. Game starts with an Eddie Julian throwing error, but Pablo still is able to put a 0 on the board. And then comes the bottom of the first, which was going to be seemingly a magical moment here. The Twins, they do score a run, they tie it. Eddie Julian walks, and then Luke Keaschall is hit by a pitch.
This was a very sad time because I was thinking all weekend about what sounder I could create for Luke Keaschall. And I saw he got hit by a pitch, but he was like smiling at first base. It seemed like everything was going to be fine. And then he came out, and I had just come up with this sounder, Dan.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
First, I wonder if he can sing. I think that would be even cooler. 86-mile-an-hour pitch, though? Is that all it was? That's all it took?
I mean, I wouldn't want to get hit with that pitch, to be fair. But
Sure.
I do think it's probably just a where it hit, just in the wrong spot.
We're about to begin bonding adamantium to weapon exoskeleton.
Matt Wallner used to give him some tips. And Ty France, how do you take a pitch without leaving with injury?
Willie
That's the
Castro,
question.
this team is so used to getting hit by baseballs. You would think Luke hasn't been around long enough. Which, by the way, another Disney sounder, David.
Yeah. You can tell that we have small children. I mean, if you look at our soundboard, it is a little bit silly, the ratio and how many come from Disney princess movies, Dan.
In any case, the Twins, they continue. So Larnach loads the bases. Correa does not strike out with the bases loaded. He manages a sac fly, and so the Twins are up 1-0. And then in the top of the second, the Angels tie it with a couple of singles and a walk. It's 1-1. But then the runs start coming. Bottom of the third, Buxton hits a solo shot to put the Twins up. Gasper, who took over for Keaschall, also gets hit by a pitch, then scores on a Larnach double. Larnach had a great series. So the Twins are up 3-1. And it finally happens. The seal is broken in the bottom of the fourth.
Thank goodness. France walks, Lee walks, Bader walks, Julian walks. I didn't say that wrong. Those four straight walks. So that scores France. Buxton hits a sac fly, and then Gasper, Dan, coming in big with an RBI single. And then Larnach obviously comes in with the big 3-run shot to right center. Twins are up 9-1. Correa reaches, then Jeffers grounds into a double play to end the inning. But really, 9-1 at that point, everybody wants to go home, Dan.
Yeah, the Twins added a couple more runs in the bottom of the sixth. Julian walks, 8 walks given up by the Angels in this. Buxton hits an RBI triple. My favorite part of this play, I think it was this play, was they had that new camera angle that's kind of, it's up the third base line.
Wire cam.
The wire cam. Cool.
Cam, yeah.
But it really gave Tommy Watkins a chance to show off his versatility, because not only did he have to windmill Eddie Julian in, he had to run back up the line and put the stop sign up for Byron Buxton. I mean, that man, Shakespeare. It's like watching someone act Shakespeare out there, watching Tommy Watkins at third.
Okay, well, the Angels hit a couple of solo home runs by Ohapi and Trout and an RBI single from
Logan
Trout.
Ohapi, your favorite name there, David.
Hey. Hard stars and horseshoes, my friends. But they put up 4 runs in total, but again, the damage was done. Twins win this one 11-4. Going into game 2, the Twins continue to hit, which was just super fun to see. They win this one 5-1.
Yeah, they actually entered this game with just 10 first inning runs all season, but they had 3 in this one, and it was 6 singles that did it. It just felt like they were jumping on Kikuchi's pitches right away. I think at some point they got like 5 or 6 of those hits, only like 19 pitches into the game. So nickel and diming him. Their first 11 hits in this game were actually singles. Bottom of the first, then it's a Jeffers single, RBI singles by Correa, France, and Jonah Bride making an appearance in a positive way to put the Twins up 3-0. And then in the bottom of the second, they add another run after Buxton singles, steals second, and then Correa, who had a very promising series, we're going to talk about him later, hits an RBI single, so it's 4-0.
I just have to ask, because on Friday night and on Saturday, the cameras showed a lot of Twins hitters talking to the next guy up. A lot.
Interesting.
More than I normally see. Is it possible there was some pitch tipping happening in this outing?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And we've seen that go the other direction. So I don't think either of us would say that that's an illegal thing. I mean, but it's very possible with Kikuchi, because he just didn't look good. And they also weren't trying to hit the ball like out of the ballpark. It seemed like they were just very content to just kind of piece some singles together.
Doesn't that make it seem even more likely that it was something that, like, they know what they can do, so why not just do that? You know?
Right? It's really simple, right? Just make the ball hit the bat. In any case, after a top of the third Zach Neto solo home run, they could not get this guy out, it seemed like, most of the series. It's 4-1 through the fourth and fifth innings, which is a stretch that included a wasted, bases-loaded, no-out situation by the Twins when Ryan Johnson, a reliever, came in. He looked really good. He struck out Buxton, and then he struck out Correa and then got another out to avoid it. But in the bottom of the sixth, the Twins get their extra base hits. France bangs a double off the wall and right at 107.7 miles an hour. And then a couple outs later, Lee hits an opposite field double to bring him in. Again, just another great hitting performance there by the Twins.
The pitching was great also. SWR goes 5 1/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 7 Ks, and a home run. The only real downside to this outing, he apparently can't see Zach Neto. It's some sort of camouflage that he's wearing or something. He stole 3 bases while SWR was on the mound, Dan.
I think he was just happy to ignore him because everything was going so well with the bats, I suppose.
It was in the top of the first one. He stole 2 of them, though, Dan. So
True, yeah, I forgot.
It's a lot of confidence in bats that haven't swung yet.
Maybe it's just not a lot of confidence in Christian Vasquez's ability to throw anybody out.
Could be, but Stewart, Jax, Varland, and Duran all get through the 6th through the 9th cleanly, which was just great because it just had one of those makings, Dan, of clearly the pendulum's going to shift and the Twins are going to lose this game somehow.
Pendulums swing, actually, David. They don't shift. They swing.
They shift. If I go to a grandfather clock and I hit it with a baseball bat, that's not swinging, Dan. That's a shift.
Fair enough. Game 3, Twins win this one 5-0. Their second shutout of the season. Kind of a funny stat in the top of the first, Joe Ryan recorded all 3 outs on pop-outs in foul territory. One of those crazy baseball stats.
I don't quite understand. I think Dan Hayes, he was making a joke.
I think he was,
where he said
too.
he tied a record for the 12,000th time that's happened in baseball history. Bottom of the first here, Julian continues right where he left off in game 1. He had 4 walks in game 1. So he adds another one to his totals. I wonder, Dan, has he returned to this lowercase g god of walk status that he had in the minors?
It's very possible. He looks so much more confident at the plate this season. And then maybe it was just another year of professional baseball, maybe a little bit of a humbling experience for him last year, but he does look so much better there. The Twins are able to get that 1 run at the bottom of the first. It's really in the 6th, though, that they break it open. Correa singles, initially called an error, which was rightfully overturned into be a hit. Larnach then reaches on an error that was an error. And then France doubles to score one of those guys. And then 2 batters later, Ryden Jeffers, who had grounded into a double play earlier in the series, gets the big hit here. He scores 2 more with a double of his own. So it's 4-0 Twins. Such a different feeling going into the late innings if you're up 4-0 instead of 2-0.
Yeah, and then top of the 7th, Harrison Bader, who's playing at center for Buxton, who had a scheduled off day. I do think sometimes people get nervous. Anytime that Buxton isn't in the lineup, they're like, what happened? What happened? Why isn't he in the lineup? And it's he has been remarkably consistent this season as far as being in the lineup is concerned. So it's great they could give him an off day. And Harrison Bader robs Taylor Ward of a hit, sets the tone for the inning, which was great. We didn't have to worry about the Twins letting this one get away from them. I do wonder, though, if Bader tweaked something. They kept showing him in the outfield after that, trying to stretch out his shoulder and stuff. Really cool, though. The guys in the dugout made a big deal when he came back in, and Joe Ryan himself threw his arms up in the air after that crazy catch. I do wonder if Buxton's in center, does he make that one standing? Do you think, Dan?
Probably. I mean, but at the same time, you're getting kind of close to the wall at that point too. Maybe Buxton would have kind of slowed down. We'll see. Hopefully Bader is okay. He did lead off the 7th inning, the bottom of the 7th, with a double, and then after a couple outs, Larnach singled him in to add another insurance run. So maybe it was just, adrenaline at that point, keeping him in the game. But we'll see. Maybe he gets a couple days off. And then in the end, Joe Ryan cruises through 7 innings, just 4 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. And Topa closes out the final 2 innings. I'm going to talk about Rocco's bullpen management a little bit later. But yeah, just 1 walk and 2 strikeouts for him as he ends it up.
Yeah, Joe Ryan was so upset about that walk. So I was listening on the radio at that point. So I have Chris Atterbury explaining to me how Joe Ryan was walking off the mound because he thought it should have been a strikeout. And he's only walked 4 guys this season, Dan. But you can tell anytime he walks a guy, Dan, he is upset. And you know what can be really frustrating? Lack of reliable internet. Is there anything our listeners could do about that, Dan?
Well, David, there is actually. Attention, Minnesota. There's a new high-speed internet sheriff in town. Gateway Fiber has landed in Blaine, Brooklyn Park, Champlin, Coon Rapids, Maple Grove, and Plymouth, with plans to expand deeper into Minnesota. Gateway Fiber boasts a fiber optic network that exceeds the capabilities of some of the biggest players in the business, giving you more whiz for less cost for all of your online working, your streaming, gaming, and whatevering. With no hidden fees, no data caps, and no installation fees, Gateway Fiber is perfect for your home or business. Go to gatewayfiber.com to get fast, reliable, and affordable high-speed fiber internet.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
First time in a while, Dan, that everybody has been in positive values, which is what I said last episode. That's what I wanted. I wanted to win when everybody else was also positive. I come away with the victory here. I had Larnach, who had 11. Dan, very close to me, had Buxton, who had 9. Then Hoag's right behind him with France, who had 8. The listeners took Keaschall. And to be fair, if Keaschall played all 3 of these games, he probably would have won. Because that man, Dan, he's just magical.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
How are we going to get through the next 6 to 8 months? We're going to have to mention him just like that, just to be able to play the sounder.
Yeah, why don't you hit us with those season stats, Dan?
Yeah, so you did take the lead. You have 4 points now in the season. Hogs has 3.5. And then I have 3. The listeners still have 0. I'm still pretty far back from you guys in the points, but I did like triple my points. So I have 13 now in the season. The listeners actually have -2. You have 28, and then Hogs has 34. So there's a lot of season left. But as you pointed out, it was only the first time this year that all 4 of our picks have been above 0. We had a couple where there was some zeros mixed in. So that is remarkable. And we had more guys we could have picked from.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
So I see what we're doing here. I see we're continuing the Puckett's Picks trend of picking the player that we picked. I'm going to pick Buxton. I know that probably other guys are the better pick per se, but Buxton went 3 for 8 in the series. He had a triple home run. He scored 4 times. This man, as you have said, if he had been able to play game 3, you got to think that he gives me the win in Puckett's Picks, but I'm really happy that the Twins got the win and he got the off day.
Yeah, agreed. A very solid pick, even with the additional bias taken into account. I'm going to go with Larnach. Same reason, 5 for 13 with 5 RBI. Joe Ryan, though, probably deserves one of these slots. I don't know who was going to give it up, but you can't pitch like that and not be put as your beast, Dan.
He was fantastic. As for bench, I'm going with Ryan Jeffers, the guy he was throwing to. Now, he ended well, but Ryan Jeffers has not had a great season. His batting average right now at this point is .243, but the OPS of .667. I am hopeful that he's turning this around here. The issue, though, with ever putting Ryan Jeffers on the bench is that seems to assume that I'd rather have Christian Vasquez playing catcher right now for this team. I guess what I would just say is that the catcher spot has been a really weak spot. They pointed out in one of the broadcasts that I think the Twins are one of only a couple teams with no home runs from catchers yet this season, which is a surprising stat given the fact that Ryan Jeffers is one of these catchers, and he's a guy who has that power.
Especially with the torpedo bat, Dan.
I know, you would think.
Well, I have to go with Luke Keaschall on my bench, Dan.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
Really, I'm just mad because I made this sounder and now we're never going to be able to use it until he comes back. It does sound, though, like it's a non-displaced fracture.
Yes.
Now, Dan, as someone who is very skilled in the medical industry,
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
I had no idea what that meant when they said it. I assume that means that the bones aren't like disjointed. What I don't know what that means.
Like the bone shards didn't scatter like throughout his body. Like it's just like it's like a crack. It's like if your window like gets hit with a neighbor's baseball and it just has a crack that runs through it, as opposed to like shattering, and it's that.
Ogres are like onions.
Very
That
helpful,
is as
Dan.
clear a way as I can. You're picturing it. You can see your window, right? You probably did it as a child and had to walk over to the neighbor and say, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, I broke your window."
You know, I never hit a window, but I did shoot my mom's gazing ball with a BB gun. You would think that it would have been clean in and out or ricochet off. Nope, clean entry, Dan. The exit blew that thing just a giant chunk out of it. It was not good.
I am not throwing away my shot.
right through it.
Anyway, but no, seriously, it's hard to give somebody a bench slot here when the team performed so well. Kind of a good performance both from the offensive side and the defensive side. And Keaschall is not on the bench for his play, just for his bad luck, unfortunately.
Rocco's Rewind.
You know, I was very pleased with Rocco, and it's easy to be pleased. It's like when you're at a large gathering of people where your children are playing with the other people's kids, and, you know, it's a sunny day, everybody's kind of distracted. You feel really good about your parenting, right? Like, in those moments, you know, your kid comes up and
Ogres
says,
are like onions. End of story.
all right, I see. Anyway, so with Rocco with this one, I think he did well. He managed the bullpen particularly well, which I really liked. I liked that he brought Duran in game 2 to close that out, even though it wasn't a save situation. He also only had to throw like 7 pitches, so you got to think if they would have needed him here in game 3, he would have been available. But the part that was interesting to me, and I forget if it was on the TV or the radio broadcast, but they were talking about how Griffin Jacks went to Rocco recently and asked to be put in some lower leverage situations, and Rocco granted it to him. And I think, why are you rolling your eyes? I think this is transparent. He doesn't have to be hyper competitive. Like, if he doesn't got it, he doesn't got it.
To use an analogy here, Dan, this is you telling your parents you did something wrong after you find out that they know you did something wrong, Dan.
What do you mean? No, it's not. This is not like
You're telling me
parenting.
he thought that he was going to stay in the high leverage situations and Rocco wasn't going to make that move anyway?
Okay, I see what you're saying there. No, I think Griffin preemptively went to Rocco.
No. Okay, I guess the timing is semantics at that point. It's happening whether Jax goes to Rocco or not, Dan.
Well, then I bet Rocco said, "Oh, all right, fine, Griffin, sure." Like he made it feel like it was Griffin's idea.
Yes, see, that's fine. I will accept that.
That's
no question.
Because that's good managing right there.
The idea that Rocco only did this.
Children come from?
The idea that Rocco did this just because Griffin Jax asked him to is preposterous.
All right. Anyway, what do you have for Rocco here?
Only one pinch hit used in this series, Dan. Bride for Gasper. The other options were all forced, like he had to make the move for one reason or another. Is this actually a new relief for Rocco, or is it again that the bench has nobody on it?
No, nobody is on that bench. Do you want to bring Jonah Bride up? I mean, come on.
I don't
Mickey
know.
Gasper, Cody Clemens, who the Twins acquired in the wake. I think they acquired him like the moment that Luke Keaschall went to the bench. Cody Clemens didn't even appear.
Chase Tingler is just scrolling Twitter looking for who got released most recently.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah, because that's what Jace is doing apparently during the games. Yeah, I think he just doesn't have any other options. It was nice, by the way, to see Jonah Bride. He actually did come in and pinch hit and then eventually get a single. I forget if it was in the pinch hit at bat or it was later, but Jonah Bride looked okay, but he's not going to be on this team much longer. I think once Royce comes back, I think when Wallner comes back, I am just more worried right now about the depth of the 40-man, that it seems that Rocco doesn't want to go to any of those guys in pinch hit situations. I think the offshoot, though, is that the lefties are getting more at-bats against lefties, and so that will, I think, pay off down the road.
But do you think he's going to continue? I mean, that's my question then. Do you think he will continue to let these lefties see lefties?
No, I think the moment that he's able to get these guys back, he's going to go back to his normal way.
But if it's working so well now, why change it, Dan, when the team is finally starting to roll a little bit here?
Now they've got it backward. Tell them to turn it around.
We have 5+ years of data on Rocco, and Rocco is not, a tiger does not change his stripes. David, Rocco is not going away from the reverse splits or the splits things. Like, he is going to go with, he sees a lefty pitcher, he's going to his bench. It's a muscle memory thing for him. There's no way.
Okay, but I have more confidence that if the sample size gets large enough that a lot of these lefties can hit left-handed pitching, Dan, there's a point where you have to start trusting your better hitters. We talk about this over and over and over and over again, but I just hate seeing guys getting pinched for in the 5th or 6th inning when there's going to be multiple at-bats left for them, and who knows who's going to be in the mound in those situations.
All right, well, I'm looking right now, David. So Eddie Julian has 12 at-bats versus lefties this year, and he's got 2 hits with an OPS of 481. Trevor Larnach has 17 at-bats and 2 hits. So I don't think that it's going all that well yet for these lefties. That sample size actually would suggest that it's not a good idea.
In my mind, Dan, it's gone way better.
It seems to have, yes. But it's not. It's not going better, actually.
I still believe, Dan. Okay, let's go
here.
Where's
the tinfoil hat of yours? All right.
Minnesota moment.
I think I did this last series too, but I'm taking a Trevor Larnach home run. I'm going to go with a 3-run shot in game 1, bottom 4. That is, I think, Hogs would probably say that's when the stadium really went into a tizzy. It was a 6-run inning for the Twins. They're up 9-1 at the end of that 4th inning, and things just feel really good, and it's good for Trevor Larnach, who is, again, showing that he's got some pop in his bat.
Sorry, I just remembered, did you look up Matt Wallner? I bet Matt Wallner's numbers are better, and that's what I'm thinking of.
Matt Wallner has 5 at-bats and 3 hits against lefties.
See?
So there you go.
That's crazy numbers.
You're right.
I was justified in 1 out of 3. That's not bad, Dan. It's only failing by a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
So I have to go game 3, bottom 6. Jeffers' RBI double to score 2 was so huge because, yeah, France had an RBI that was great to score 1, and it just felt like that was all the Twins were going to get. Earlier in the season, we would have rejoiced at the 1 run, but it just felt like this was different. Jeffers was able to get into it and keep the train moving. Twins put up a couple more runs, which they didn't need necessarily, but you always want more runs, Dan.
You always want more runs. Yes, and even though Joe Ryan is on the mound and pitching well, you want to be able to let him go. You don't want to give Rocco a reason to go to the bullpen if he doesn't have to. And I think when the Twins are up more runs, he's going to let Joe have a longer leash.
All right, well, let's go on here, Mauer's Musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
So you mentioned his name earlier, Dan. Royce Lewis has started his rehab start with the Saints. He had a busy night Friday night. He went from the Saints game to the Twins game to the T-Wolves game. Like, that's a pretty ridiculous way to spend your evening.
You underestimate my power.
He's very versatile. He was at the Timberwolves game that night, too?
Yeah, him and SWR, I think, went. Yeah.
Oh, man. What a night.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, my question is, Dan, it sounds like he's not going to come back until the homestand. So he's got a couple more series to rehab the injury down to AAA and then come on back, hopefully at full strength, ready to rock. How much of an impact is there to reasonably expect Royce to make on this roster?
I think we have to reasonably expect that he comes back in all-star form. Like, he's going to be the guy.
Reasonably expect that.
Well, it's like, because that's always what we're going to expect out of Royce. It's not fair, but that's who he is.
Don't give me hope.
Sorry. I just think he's going to come back, and he's going to come out, because every time he comes back, he plays well. His fades have come later when we've kind of grown accustomed to Royce Lewis, but right away, he comes back with a home run.
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Dan, I asked this question specifically so you could kind of tone down the expectations to make people be a little bit more reasonable, give him a minute to get his feet wet, and Dan's like, nope, 7 homers out the gate. It's gonna
be great. 7 homers in 7 days. That's what we can expect out of Royce Lewis.
I would love it if that's the case. Honestly, I want him to play a solid third base and sort of ramp up a little bit. Yeah, if he comes out firing, fantastic. I'm not going to get my hopes up that he's going to be this guy who's going to come in and start putting up 3-4 RBIs every game that he returns.
So my question to you is this. Is there a world in which the Twins, come July, are trading away a starting pitcher?
Only if they're losing. Only if they have a bad record.
Okay.
They'll trade him away if they can get some good prospects in return. But my goodness, Dan, if this team is above 500 or even like within the hunt here for the division, no chance, because the only way you make a deep playoff run is if you have pitching to fall back on. And right now, we think the Twins have that. So if they're trading that away, in my mind, even if you're getting an impact bat, I think you're sort of saying, yeah, we're not really going to compete in the postseason.
All right, here's another path. First of all, by the way, I can't help but think that the Twins are going to be back to 500 and beyond by July, right?
Because we'll get to that, Dan. We'll get to that in a moment.
Make sure you're going to come back to that. I think that the way that this happens is if Chris Paddock is pitching decently well, and the Twins could say, you know what, you got an ERA in the high 4s. I think they could trade him away to make room for Zebby or Festa to come into the rotation at that time of year, because they don't want to keep Festa. They don't want to wait. I think you're better off actually with Zebby or Festa in the rotation, but they can't get rid of Paddock without him getting hurt or straight up cutting him, and they don't want to do that. But they could trade him at some point, get some value, because you can't send Paddock down to the minors, right? So that's the scenario that I'm looking at, is if Chris Paddock is enough, if he's salvageable here for the next couple months, maybe some team would see his ERA and say, oh yeah, we could use another starting pitcher.
I feel like that question's a little bit different. I realize it's the same question saying, would the Twins trade away a starting pitcher versus would the Twins trade away Chris Paddock?
Maybe I should have asked that question.
I think had you asked that question, I would have said, oh, yeah, that's totally reasonable. You trade him away for an impact bat. You bring up Festa, or you bring up Matthews and let him have a shot. Sure. I guess in my mind, I took that to mean one of the big three, either Lopez, Ober, or Ryan, which is not what you meant.
No, like, oh, honey, I see that there's milk in the kitchen on the floor. I wonder who might have spilled the milk. You know, I could have asked the real question.
There's no reason to trade away those 3 guys who you have locked up through 2028.
No.
Like, that is a lot of time left. You got several more seasons with these guys. Let's put them to work here. I don't want you to trading those guys for rentals. Like, and at this point, the Twins won't be trading for rentals. That's not going to happen unless something crazy happens in the next couple of months before the deadline.
All right, let's move forward here and let's grade the series.
Series grades.
I got to give him an A here, Dan. A very business-like series. It seems like the team is having fun. We haven't even mentioned the Spartan Gladiator helmet deal. I don't really want to talk about it, Dan. Every time I do, people hate on me for not liking fun, and that's not the case. I just think it's silly. Just enjoy things, Dan. Just
have
enjoy
you no
them
joy
as they
in
are.
your life? Is there no song in your heart?
I just said I didn't want to talk about it. Dan. Playing that sounder is talking about it.
Why do you want to? You don't want to talk? We can't bring it up and then not talk about it.
Anyway, but I did want to say that SWR said that the other Minnesota teams being in the postseason sort of brings some energy to the Twins clubhouse, because they want to get to that place also, and they want to win to get fans back at Target Field. And like I've said a couple episodes ago, once the Wild season wraps, once the Timberwolves season wraps, I hope that the Twins are winning baseball games so that people do tune in, Dan.
I mean, there were 18,000 fans at the Twins game today, and I wonder how many of them peeled off to go to Target Center, right before the end of the game to go to the Timberwolves game.
I would be shocked if there weren't more than one, I'm sure, Dan, in the stands who did that exact thing.
I went with an A as well. Correa got things back on track. Larnach looked great. The pitching was really sound. round. They beat a team that they ought to beat. They looked a lot better than the Angels, and even though they're a half game behind the Angels in the standings, that gives me hope for the team that, hey, maybe they're not as bad as their record is. They're only 2 games back now from the Royals, who are 14-14. They are 3.5 back from the Guardians, who are 15-12. And then the Tigers, who we'll talk about here in just a minute, are 18-10, lead the division. They're 6 games ahead of the Twins.
But it was a beautiful day, Dan. And I do think the only downside of going from the Twins game to the Timberwolves game is you're leaving this beautiful weather, Dan, because it's officially coleslaw season.
It is.
Grab a jar of Jimmy's coleslaw dressing to give your slaw the zip and zing that everyone will be talking about. Available in original, fat-free, and pineapple, Jimmy's is family fun and locally owned. Delicious on burgers, brats, pulled pork, and as a summertime side. You can't go wrong with Jimmy's. Pick up a jar today. Jimmy's salad dressing and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Couple of quick notes here. Eugenio Suarez hits his 4th home run in one game for the Diamondbacks. He's the 19th player to do it. Funny enough, Dan, the Diamondbacks still lose.
Yeah, go figure. He's a name out here that the Mariners fans know him well. Kind of a guy that got away that they wish they would have kept. A guy who's shown his ability to hit power, but yeah, 4 in a game. Maybe he's on the torpedo bat too. Do we know?
I don't know, actually, off the top of my head.
And then another thing that we wanted to mention here is that the Tigers just swept the Orioles in a 3-game set. I mentioned the Tigers record at 18-10. The Orioles, on the other hand, are 10-17. Last place in the AL East. So does this say more about the Tigers or the Orioles right now?
I hope the Orioles, because the Twins are going to play them a lot in the very near future. But it does seem that like maybe the Tigers are better than expected and the Orioles are worse than expected. But some combination allowed the Tigers to sweep the Orioles here.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Twins will play the Orioles here in early May in 3 series from now, and then they will play them again 2 series after that. So by mid-May, they're done with the Orioles for the season. They don't play the Tigers again until, looks like, late June. They see the Tigers again. So, yeah, hopefully, like you said, their fates can kind of flip a little bit just in time for all that.
Well, in 2023, remember, we had the Orioles number. We played the Orioles and the Royals to start the series, and we won like 1,000 games out of the gate, Dan.
Yeah, go figure. And then one other thing, I've been wanting to bring this up for a while, I haven't at the time, but this is a few weeks ago now, but Mark Ripperger called a perfect game as the home plate umpire and believes the Twins-Royals game some time ago. It was just the 2nd ever perfect game called. Again, this is all according to Scorecard in the Scorecard era, so like the last 12 years or so. The other one was actually in the World Series, I believe, which there was an irony about that. There's an article in The Athletic that pointed this out. But do you know who the other umpire was who called that perfect game?
I'm sure it wasn't Angel Hernandez.
No, it was the guy who was disgraced for cheating.
Oh, Hobart or whatever?
Yeah, it was Pat Hoberg was the other one.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was funny. But I've seen other stats, and I can't cite them right now. I apologize. I can't find them. That umpiring has actually gotten more accurate over the last few years with the extra pressure on the umps. And I still wonder, I'm curious if you agree with me, that maybe they should just use this data as some kind of a relegation system for the umpires, where if you don't reach a certain threshold, then they send you down to AAA and they bring up a different guy. That seems like such a better way to manage it, because more and more as I watch these, I just don't think that the system is going to be perfect, because people move and they're imperfect. Am I just not understanding how the system works?
No, I think that the human element to umpires makes some sense. And I think that the way that they're drawing up the strike zone, which has always been my concern, you can take that to the bank from 4 seasons ago when we were talking about this. I do like your idea, though, that if they have the statistical analysis to be able to be very accurate as far as how well umpires perform, why on earth wouldn't you have a system like this where, hey, if you're not performing well, you are going to get sent down? Now, granted, I don't know the politics or the structure organizationally for umpires. Do AAAs, is that how it goes? Like they go from AAA to majors? I don't know how that works.
I believe so. Not so directly, but yeah, guys kind of earn their stripes, so to speak, in the lower leagues. So I just think that would be a better system. It brings out the best in people. Yes, are there going to be some mistakes? We saw that hurt the Twins. We're going to see it help the Twins. It's part of the game. And I just think that that's okay. Hogs, I think, has said it really well when he's on, where it's an element in the game where you have to adapt to the umpire, and that's not a bad thing. That's part of the gamesmanship of it. So I hope that this data continues to improve in that way, because I think that is just the better way to manage. It's the more human, relational way to do it than just adding a robot. It feels very weird back there to have him just saying what he hears in his earpiece.
Yeah. Fair point, Dan. Well, Dan, let's go ahead and make our picks for the upcoming Guardians series, the first time the Twins will see them this season.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
The listeners are going to take Larnach off the board. Hogs is going to take Buxton, and then that'll fall to you, Mr. Thompson.
I think I'm going to go with Correa. He had such a good series, hit the ball really well in game 3 here today. He was 3 for 4. So I'm going to say he's going to ride that streak into the Guardian series.
I'm going to take my boy, Eddie.
Really?
Oh, Canada.
Why?
I don't know who else to take. I thought about France, maybe, but I want to mix it up a little bit. I think Julian's going to be the pick. He's getting on base a lot. He's not getting a lot of negative points as long as he can make those throws to first base. I think he's turning it around, Dan, and he's going to be the player that we thought he could be. I just don't know who else to pick at this point in this lineup.
Now, what do you think that they got to do over this road trip here? This is an interesting road trip, probably a dream road trip in many ways, to go Guardians Red Sox here. You think they got to win 3 of the 7, 4 of the 7? What is your path to 500 tell us?
My path to 500 actually allows them to only take 2 of 7 here.
Oh gosh.
1 in the 4-game set against the Guardians and 1 against the Red Sox. That being said, they're actually a game up now because they swept the Angels, and I said they only had to take 2 of 3. So if this team is going to perform and actually get to a point where we can talk about them realistically making the postseason, I think if they can split against the Guardians, and again, just 1 of 2 from the Red Sox at Fenway, I'm okay with that, Dan.
Gosh, though, if they could win 4 out of these 7, and then they're 16 and 19, you know.
Oh, dude. Yeah. How would you prefer them to split that? Would you want the 3 against the Guardians or the 2 against the Red Sox?
Oh, yeah, I'd for sure want the 3 against the Guardians, because then you're right there with them, I would think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, take 3 or 4 from the Guardians, 1 of 3 in Boston, but heck, let's go for the sweeps here, David. What's 2 more on top of the sweep they just had?
I do think this speaks to my reasonableness as far as
does.
They've already outperformed what I've told them that they needed to do to get back to 500, Dan.
See, if you set that bar at like 2 feet, when you hop the 2-foot bar, like, it's pretty impressive.
If I could hop 2 feet, Dan, that'd be great. All right, Dan, why don't you go ahead and send us out? We'll be back, folks, on Thursday after the Guardian series.
Yes, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.